And we are live. How you doing, all you amazing Mets fans? Sadly, I feel like I know the answer to how you're doing, and it's not great. And if you're wondering why it's not great somehow, it's because Kodai Senga's season, in the flash of literally a snap of a finger, has come and went just like that. Quite literally doing his best Aaron Rodgers impression, making his Jets debut. For all my Jets fans out there, you know that pain. I'm not a Jets fan, but I feel like one today, finding out this Kodai Senga news, as yes, after that calf cramp that we saw yesterday, it was a strain. We just had to find out through MRI today to what degree, and all the latest reports have indicated that yes, according to Carlos Mendoza, Mets skipper, he will be out for the remainder of the regular season. At minimum right now, it appears that way, after unfortunately suffering a high-grade calf strain. So pretty much the worst news that the Mets could find themselves having, one looking at a calf strain injury here for Kodai Senga, who is nothing short of absolutely marvelous in his season debut yesterday, going 5.1 innings of 2 earned run, 1 walk, 9 strikeout ball, was carving up every batter and their mother. But now the Mets lose their ace once again for the remainder of the season, for the next 60 or so games until we reach postseason play. Hopefully, knocking on wood, the Mets find themselves in there the way that they're currently slotted as a top wildcard team in baseball. But with Senga now on the shelf and the Mets deferring back to a 5-man rotation, there is more of an emphasis now than ever to not only add to this rotation, but one could even make the rightful argument the Mets should maybe acquire more than one starter. Yes, I know that's crazy to say. It wasn't not all that long ago that we were talking about buying and selling as leading up to the trade deadline. Now it's the farthest thing from the truth with the injuries that the Mets have sustained. And while yes, you can say, Wardy, the Mets have done perfectly fine without Kodai Senga this season, that might be true. However, losing Christian Scott doesn't help. And you look at the current rotation configuration right now, you can never have enough options. So acquiring at least one true starter along with another guy that you can basically defer to move in the bullpen, or figure out what you do when everything aligns right, especially if, say, someone doesn't perform well, like a Jose Quintana, like a Sean Manaea, just to name a few, should they falter towards the end of the season. Not that I wish it, just saying it may happen. In those scenarios, all the more reason why you want as much reassurance as possible for this rotation. And Tyler McGill, Joey Lucchesi, they only provide you so much in that regard. So we have a lot to get into in today's show, everybody. I want to know your initial reactions. Yes, spam it right now. Everyone just spam "this sucks," because that's first and foremost. I mean, just literally my heart ripped out of my chest to find out the Kodai Senga news. I don't know about you amazing Mets fans, but that's how I feel right now, because Senga's a guy that we have been longing for, to finally see that ghost fork, that fastball touching 97, 98, even 99 on the gun. So electric, so lively, and such an infectious personality too, that is Kodai Senga. There's so much to love about him and his game and who he is as a human being, how he carries himself. And Kodai's a guy that we want to see with the Mets as soon as humanly possible. We finally get him back after multiple setbacks from an injury that was sustained all the way back in spring training, to now fast forward a fluke calf injury that has nothing to do with the other injuries that he's had, because of course it doesn't. And just like that, the Mets ace is now on the shelf for the foreseeable future, and we're right back to square one in evaluating this rotation and how to go about it from now up until the July 30th trade deadline this Tuesday, which we will have coverage on every news, every report, every rumor, everything in between, as we always do here on the channel. I want to see how you guys feel on the poll, though, because we're going to talk about some starting options for the Mets to consider. Obviously, we talked about them in the past, but we're going to highlight them again here, not only in the case of a guy that I've spoken of greatly in Eric Fedde, but also some other interesting options, whether it's Jack Flaherty, who was a rental option, so I could see both the pros and cons to acquiring someone like him. Blake Snell, does that make at all any sense? We'll talk about that a little bit too. You say Kikuchi, does he make at all a level of sense? Are there other starters that we're currently not naming? Not name, of course, the heralded Garrett Crochet, who in fact is looking like his trade market is not being impacted nearly as much as what maybe initial rumblings were believed to be, with him saying that he won't play in playoffs until he's extended. Yes, that carries some weight, but at the same time, it isn't really wavering how teams are evaluating Crochet and his trade value right now. So Crochet, while he's a pipe dream, and while I don't think the Mets can match a Orioles or a Dodgers in a trade package based on the respective farms, it doesn't mean the Mets are going to be out of the woods there on that discussion either. Right now, it's safe to say they will still be adding this bullpen, but on the rotation front, again, now there's a heavier point of emphasis to add now more than ever. Even with going back to a 5-man with no 6-man until Kodai comes back, whether that's come postseason play, whether that is not until next season, all we know is right now the Mets need to make sure they rightfully make the proper reinforcements, and we can all expect that to happen in the coming hours, if not the coming days. Wait, you mentioned Eric Fetty. I mean, how could I, right, Steve? If you know, you know. Great member. Happy to have you in here. Thank you all so much, everybody, for chiming in live on our replay. Smash that like and subscribe button for your boy. Greatly appreciated. As we're breaking down the latest in Mets land, as sadly, Mets ace Kodai Senga goes down with a season-ending high calf grade strain, that a high grade, I can't even speak right now, a high grade calf strain, which has him on the shelf for the rest of the season. Sean with the $5 howl says, I'm a Jets fan, so I was having PTSD to Aaron when Senga went down because at first I thought it was his Achilles tendon. Wait, what? He is out for the season? Yes, sadly, he is out for the season. Yes, it wasn't an Achilles, but it was still a season-ending injury when we only have, you know, what, 50 or so games left this season. We're in the 50 to 60 range. I don't have the exact number on me. That's okay. Let's see what we got here. My man Darren, the best Mets fan from the UK. Happy to have you in here, Darren. Let's see. Darren says, sucks about Senga, but it's time to catch the Phillies starting tonight and go on and win the division. You said it, Darren. I love that. Darren's like cutthroat. I don't care that Senga's out. We still need to make sure we're going all in and pushing for the division. Screw the Phillies. Let's have it. Speaking of the Phillies, I will be in attendance for a Mets-Phillies game in Philly in September, so I will enlighten you all about that once we get closer to the date. The Mets have a boatload of games against the Phillies in the final couple weeks in the season, and funny enough, everything is currently lining up for that to have quite the impact on the Mets, along with the Phillies and potentially that pennant race. Who would have thought that in 2024, the Mets actually aren't completely out of the woods when trying to push for the division? Again, if the Mets win the NL East, would that be amazing? Of course. Do I expect it? No. But if they just continue to take things day by day the way that they have, Kodai Senga or not, again, they've gone this far without Kodai, the same way in 2022. They got that far without Jacob deGrom. They got that far with the injury-riddled Max Scherzer. If they can do those things, I have confidence in their ability to still hit a high that maybe we haven't seen yet this year, and that will happen should the Mets again and David Stearns make the proper reinforcements leading up, if not on the trade deadline itself. And that's really where I want to have a heavy discussion in this fairly short live show today. We're not going to be crazy in this one. We got post-game coverage today as well, hopefully after a series victory with Big Drip McGill on the mound against the Atlanta Braves here. Let's go, baby. Let's continue to roll. Let's make it 7 or 8 games above 500, because why not? Let's just continue to roll. But in the meantime, let's talk about the unfortunate news. Shay's doing fantastic, Mark. Thank you for asking. Always appreciate when people ask about the kiddo. He's doing amazing right now. And that's in part why I'm not going to be long-winded here, because I have family over this weekend. We're all having a great time spending time with my amazing little son. That is Shay. Peter with the $2 haul says, what prospect do you think is gone? I think there's multiple prospects that could be gone, but I don't think any's like a guarantee that, oh, okay, this guy, this ranked prospect is 100% out of here. No, we really can't put 2 and 2 together on that front yet. I mean, we know there's rumblings about, you know, will the Mets consider trading Brett Beatty because he's controllable, still has upside. That is true, but to, you know, what is the interest level from opposing teams right now versus what it was a couple years prior before Beatty had this continued struggle of being an everyday MLB player right now, who is Barry Bonds at the AAA level, right? So prospect-wise, for David Stearns, he obviously does not want to part with much top young talent. However, with the way the Mets are playing, the way they currently need to add in multiple areas to this team to really make themselves better than what they currently stand, mainly you just want a cushion, right? We know how good this Mets lineup is this season when they're at their best. I think there could still be some untapped potential there if you get rid of dead weight, i.e. a DJ Stewart or a Ben Gamel, just to name a few. The return of Starling Marte and also acquiring one bat, which I guarantee you the Mets will do by Tuesday night. That 100% is going to happen. They are going to be looking to, again, just make sure they fill these holes, because if you want to try to have a deep playoff run, even for a potential wild card team, the easiest way to make that happen is you're going to have yourselves as much depth as possible. And that's what David Stearns has prided himself on in the past. So now let's talk about depth. Let's talk about starting pitching. And let's talk about what maybe makes sense for the Mets and maybe what doesn't make sense for the Mets in today's show. And again, thank you all so much for being here. Continue to smash those buttons. Let me know your thoughts, especially my replay viewers in the comments down below. The same applies. Let me know how you feel, but not only about the Kodai Senga injury, but also what should the Mets do to rectify this rotation after losing their ace for the season. We are almost at 100 likes, just around 30 to 40 away. Thank you all so much for that, everybody. Fetty is the leading front runner of what you Mets fans want in the starting pitching front. Eric Fetty, that we know and I've spoken of greatly, 2.98 ERA, a 3.65 expected ERA, 2 years of control that David Stearns went out of his way to try to land this past offseason. Having a great year with the Chicago White Sox, exactly what the Mets need as a guy that can give you 6 to 7 innings every time out there. Knows the NL East well during his time with the Nationals when he was batting practice. But for anyone that thinks Fetty is the Fetty of the Nationals, I got a bridge to sell you. Their arsenal is completely different. His put-out pitches are completely different than what they were even last year in the KBO, and he's having great success with a horrendous Chicago White Sox team with a horrendous defense behind him and around him. I can only imagine how Fetty would do in an atmosphere at Citi Field with the Mets and with having the run that they currently find themselves having. However, if you're not going to go for Eric Fetty, and again, we'll get into more of the numbers here shortly, just going with the poll, at 29% out of you amazing Mets fans, we have you guys want Jack Flaherty. Jack Flaherty, the former St. Louis Cardinal that went through multiple ailments, was dealt to the Orioles last year and wasn't really that good. Comes out in his first year and only year with the Detroit Tigers, and he's having himself a masterful one. A 2.95 ERA, a 2.93 expected ERA, but just 1 year of control for Jack Flaherty. So, simply put, why would the Mets not land Jack Flaherty? It's because you're going to give up some key assets in a bidding war for arguably the best starter, one of the best starters at least available at the trade deadline, that is not going to give you team control beyond this season. David Stearns does not like giving away a lot of key assets for 1 year rentals, especially if they aren't going to move the needle enough. As good as Jack Flaherty has been, there is a fair argument to say, why invest this much in a guy when he can potentially walk this offseason? It's a fair thing to say, and it's a fair thing to suggest. Same way, it's fair. However, it's kind of crazy to think about. Blake Snell, he's got 2 years left of control. He's finally starting to get in a rhythm with the Giants a little bit after a horrendous start to the year, after missing spring training. Him and Jordan Montgomery alike, two guys that, unfortunately for their sake, took the advice of Scott Boras to wait things out, and that hurt them and their performance this season. But Blake Snell, as much as I firmly believe that he could be absolutely horrendous at Citi Field, I can't sit here confidently and say that Blake Snell would do great in a big market like the Mets here in New York. I think that's pushing things a bit. Snell walks everybody a lot of the times, but when he's right, he can be one of the best pitchers in baseball, just pounding the strike zone, a lively fastball, a disasterly slider. And when you look at his expected numbers, they're actually not nearly as bad as you think. A 3.55 expected ERA to a 5.38 ERA. So again, baseline numbers, what do they tell you? What a pitcher and the defense around him essentially controls. When we get into expected numbers like expected ERA, SI ERA, just to name a few, those help break down and tell you exactly what you're getting out of a pitcher, excluding the other factors like poor defense behind him, just really focusing and having a point of emphasis on his pure production. And that alone tells you that he's having a much better season right now than what the baseline ERA is telling you. So that alone is encouraging for Blake Snell, who's going to continue to ramp up and get better as the season goes on. He just needs to stay healthy, has 2 years left of control, is a costly contract that we know Steve Cohen can eat it. Does he want to eat it? And again, the upside of going after a Blake Snell versus some other options here is that not only a team control for another year, should he really become that ace caliber southpaw that we've seen him be multiple times in his career, but you're also acquiring him in return for not giving up as many assets of value as you say would for an Eric Fetty, who's having the superior season on 2 years left to control, a very team-friendly contract for him for the most part, versus, say, a Blake Snell, who isn't on a team-friendly contract. That's a short-term, but it's not team-friendly. He can opt in next season. That's going to come at a lesser price of what you're going to have to give up to acquire someone like him, because he's not as desirable, and that's where I could see the Mets and Steve Cohen flexing their guns with their dollars and trying to take advantage of that potential situation. Not saying it's going to happen, but it's now something to ponder and consider as we're trying to figure out more starting pitching options outside of just maybe one or two in a market that is pretty top heavy leading up to the Tuesday's deadline. Outside that, we have talked about other guys. We talked about a lot Jesus Luzardo in the past. I would love Luzardo, but he's dealt with ailments all year long that we know, and I just don't see that happening right now this current current rate. The Mets have liked Luzardo a lot in the past, as have I. And I would like them to circle back at some point. If it's in the offseason, that's okay. But Jesus Luzardo, definitely a guy that I've always been a fan of, even with the up-downs that he's had from Oakland A's in his early career, being traded for Starling Marte 1-for-1. Such a stupid trade by the A's just to do nothing with Marte and then not bring him back, obviously, because he signed with the Mets for $80+ million, which most Mets fans aren't happy about just because of how that contract is aging at the moment. But in the interim here, you want to find as many starting pitching options as we can right now. And Snell is at 16% out of the poll out of over 300 votes of you Mets fans saying what is an option to turn to now with Kodai Senga on the shelf and try to seek more help. Lucas Erceg is another guy that can definitely provide some impact for the Mets for sure. Yep, there are a lot of guys out there, especially on the reliever front, that do make sense for the Mets here. But with this rotation, and again, a dire need to have some quality here. What do I mean by that? All right, guys, we've watched the Mets all season long. We've watched them manage somehow, some way to really get themselves out of jams with a lot of stars that just give you 5-and-dive outings. Luis Severino has been that one sure guarantee in this rotation of a guy that, 9 out of 10 times you're going to at least get 6-7 innings out of Luis Severino, even when he has a bad outing, because of just how consistent Sevy has been for the Mets this season in providing length at the very least. Even if his stuff isn't great, he does his best job to give the Mets length, and that is very important when you want to make sure that, one, you help try to lessen the depleted bullpen that you find yourself having on an every single night basis right now, but two, you just want to be a starter that should be giving you 6 to 7 innings. I mean, it feels like it's rocket scientists with these guys nowadays. But we're so far removed from the days of, pitching complete games consistently, or even, just a decade ago, guys consistently going 7 innings. We're even losing that at a very fast clip right now. That's not good. I don't think that's a good thing for the Mets. I don't think that's a good thing for baseball at all. Eric Fetty, more often than not, has been able to provide solid 6 to 7 inning outings. When we look at current guys on the rotation outside of Severino, Jose Quintana, Sean Manaea, David Peterson has definitely been impressive, but still looking for length there. None of these guys have really consistently given the Mets length this season other than Severino, and that's important. So that is something that I'm currently looking at when evaluating potential starting pitching options. And when you go the lengths to do that, you will automatically eliminate potentially a Blake Snell connection here until the Mets are reportedly connected, because Blake Snell is just a guy that you have no clue lengthwise what you're getting from. Eric Fetty, you do know what you're getting. Jack Flaherty, you do know what you're getting. These are guys that can come out there, eat innings as a 1, 2, or 3 in your rotation, a pair with a Luis Severino right now. And then we have, again, the following: Luis Severino, Jose Quintana, Sean Manaea. The fact that that is the Mets' three-headed monster of a rotation still heading into the trade deadline with no Kodai Senga or Christian Scott in sight for the foreseeable future, that's a problem. And this is where I do not believe the Mets' current rotation configuration is sustainable as things currently stand, which is exactly why, all the more reason, we not only can expect, but we'll be seeing them make moves, and the right moves, for this Mets team to hopefully make this rotation better than how it currently looks here. And speaking of amazing things here, everybody, can we please get a quick shout out, because we have baby Shay himself here chiming in. Shout out to my beautiful girlfriend Lexi. Here is Shay. I don't have Shay in a Mets outfit right now. Steve, I got to have him in a Mets outfit next time I have him on, so I apologize. But you guys have been asking. Look at him, a little chunk that he is, all head just like his dad here. Everybody, let's get some love in the chat for not only Lexi, but also Shay. Let's get some Shay hype in the chat right now, because why the hell not? She just walked in. He's like, why not? Let's bring Shay in the show. So, Shay, say hi to everybody. All right, now let's ask Shay the real question. All right, Shay. Between Eric Fetty, between Blake Snell, between Jack Flaherty, between Yusei Kikuchi. Oh, he didn't like the thought of Yusei Kikuchi, and I don't really blame him all that much. I don't hate the idea of Kikuchi being pushed in the pen, but I got to ask him, out of those 4 pitchers, which one do you want the most, and why? Wait, what? I didn't hear that last part. Okay, I didn't ask you to spam it that much. He wants Eric Fetty, like father, like son. Okay, you heard the boy. You heard it. It happened. Love you. Thank you. Bye. Say bye to everybody. Oh, and there he goes. Perfect ending. Now he's gonna go scream. So, is he hungry? He probably needs to eat. Diaper. Oh, diaper. Okay. All right. Good luck. Okay. Shout out to Shay. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was not scripted. That was not planned, but I really was happy that she did that. Very cool. Yeah, he did just poop. As soon as he heard you say Kikuchi, he's like, dude, I'm laying a deuce. The same way that Kikuchi lays a deuce a lot. However, Yusei isn't horrendous, and he has been having a pretty good Caper 9 this season, I have noticed. Still, though, everybody, let's talk a little bit more about this before I wrap this one up, because I'm not going to be long-winded, as I mentioned. I just want to go over a couple things here on the pitching front, and it is as follows, everybody. When we take a further deep dive, a further look at the following pitchers, let's start here actually. Again, we will pivot with the guy that I've been deferring to so much this season, and I will defer to him again, the guy that's been running and the highlights the whole time, if you haven't noticed already. And thank you guys for the kind words too, with Shay. I appreciate that. But this is what I've had a lot of Mets fans this year just say, dude, no, Eric Fetty's horrendous and all this stuff. But I'm telling you guys, if you're paying attention to Eric Fetty, if you watched him at all during his time in the KBO, and which I did, I watched film this past offseason. He was nails there. Then we look at what he's doing this season. Not the same pitcher. Trust me, I get it. I'm the same schmuck that can be a hypocrite at times and tell you why I don't want Hector Neris, even after dominating with the Houston Astros for a couple years, because I can only think of Hector Neris during his time with the Phillies when he was batting practice for the Mets. Basically, their Jeurys Familia, but was more inconsistent and was even not as good as Jeurys. And Jeurys, of course, had a better peak between the two, you could rightfully argue. But I'm getting on a tangent there. You guys get what I'm trying to say, right? But all right, guys, let's get into this. Steve, I'm glad that it put a perma smile on your face, my man. Very happy to hear that. Goose, how are you? Happy to have you in the chat. Sean, Daniel, Steve, Steven, all the members in the chat. Fletch, how you doing? Sean, everybody chiming in. Also, my man Dave Kaplitz, Darren, all you guys are the best. But let's take a look here a little bit at the Savant numbers briefly of Eric Fetty. Then we're going to do the same here with Jack Flaherty and the same there with Blake Snell, because why not? Let's just do it. So let me pull this up real quick. Okay. When we take a look at Eric Fetty, again, I've talked about him in previous content on the channel this year. 94th percentile in pitching run value, 95th percentile in fastball run value, breaking run value, 76th percentile, right around middle of the pack in baseball, 49th percentile at all speed run value, 60th percentile in expected ERA, expected batting average, 52 percentile. Fastball velocity, 34 percentile. He's a soft tosser, we know, but it doesn't matter because he still is inducing a solid swing and miss over 8K per 9 or so this year, right around 2 walks per 9. He's inducing those ground balls and getting a solid amount of swing and miss, so not complaining much there. And that expected batting average, just above average at 52%. Fastball velo, we talked about. Average exit velocity, 67 percentile, so above average. Chase percentage, whip percentage are down, but again, those things don't matter as long as he's getting quality outs, and he is. Doesn't matter if the whiff and the chase isn't there as much because he's not that kind of pitcher, and we know that. The walk percentage, though, we see at 71%, they're very solid stuff. Keeping the guys off the bases is very important. You guys know how much I care about walk percentage with these starters this year because the Mets have walked everyone their mother many times this season. Barrel percentage, 56 percentile, 68 percentile in hard hit percentage, ground ball percentage, 62 percentile, so above league average there, and 74 percentile and extension. So that is what you're getting with Eric Fetty, who's got the sinker, the cutter, the sweeper, and the sinker, cutter, sweeper, changeup, and that huge put out pitch for him this year has been that sweeper. It has been an absolute thing of beauty. And when we actually go down, let's take a look at the more information on the pitches here, because that sweeper, again, a batting average of 169 for the opponents, a 195 expected batting average. We're looking at a 349 slug, and yeah, then we see a 237 opponent batting average for the sinker, 246 for the cutter. The slugging for the cutter, don't love that at 431. That can be better there for sure. That's the pitch he throws the most. But overall, solid numbers there to say the least with Eric Fetty, who has been very reliable for the Chicago White Sox this season. But now let's get into another starting pitcher, and let's talk about Jack Flaherty, because Jack Flaherty, again, has been having a fantastic season that we know for the Detroit Tigers. But the problem that I have with Jack is this sustainable? One, and two, how is he going to transition mainly to a big market like New York if the Mets were to go out of their way to try to acquire him? He was in St. Louis. He was in Baltimore. He's in Detroit. What does that mean? A whole lot of nothing when handling a market. Like, those fan bases don't even sniff what it's like to be in a New York market, in a Boston market. Like, it's just the atmosphere, the media. The media is the big thing as well. And look at these numbers, just gorgeous. Flaherty, again, one of the best pitchers in all of the American League this year. One of the best 1-2 punches along with Tarek Skubal that we see there in Detroit. 88th percentile in pitching run value, 64th percentile in fastball run value, breaking run value at 95th percentile, off-speed run value at 51 percentile, 88th in expected ERA, 80th in expected batting average. Insane. Fastball velo down. He's a soft tosser too, but again, because he's so brilliant on working those outs. Average exit velocity 72, 78th percentile, chase percentage, whip percentage 94th percentile, K percentage 93rd percentile, walk percentage 93rd percentile. Jack Flaherty is pitching to over 11 K per nine this season with just over a 1 walks per nine. One of the best K to walk per nine ratios among pitchers in all Major League Baseball this season. So yeah, Jack Flaherty is pitching like a dog, but can it continue? And will he be worthy of the high cost it will take to acquire the rental veteran right-handed arm? That's a great question as well. Barrel percentage right around middle of the pack at 51, 72 at hard hit percentage, ground ball above average 55, and extension 70. Julio, thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate that. You need to visit your home city field more often. I do, Julio. Thank you so much for the donation. For those that don't know, that is my guy Julio, who I had the pleasure of meeting at the Mets walk-off victory 3-2 a couple nights ago. Julio was one of a boatload of Mets fans I had the pleasure of interacting with, talking with, chopping up. Had a great time not only meeting Julio, but also meeting his daughters. So again, wishing you guys the absolute best. Was awesome to meet you both, and thank you so much for that donation. Happy to chop it up with you again, and looking forward to seeing all you amazing Mets fans next time I'm at the park. Don't worry, it will be that we're going to see in August. So right after the trade deadline, I'm hoping to at least hit a couple games there in the month of August, so be on the lookout. We also see in the chat, Peen, how you doing? Wardy just got off work, went to the game yesterday. Awesome. Hope you had a great time, my man. I'm glad I took Senga only game, but damn, does it suck that he's hurt. I really am upset that Fujinami's gone as well. Fujinami actually isn't gone, funny enough. He's just DFA'd, and I don't think anyone's going to pick him up because people don't want his $3.5 million contract. So assuming Fujinami's not picked up and the Mets don't trade him, he will still be outrighted to AAA Syracuse. So all the DFA did was to make sure that Shintaro Fujinami wasn't on the active roster because the Mets signed him to a major league contract. That way they have roster room, bullpen configuration, all that kind of stuff. Thank you, though, for the kind words, my man. Happy to have you in here as always. But all right, guys, let's get into it. We talked about Wardy Senga is coming back, hopefully before the end of the season. Pardon me. Hopefully before the year is done for the Mets. But Senga, when it comes to will he return this season, Carlos Mendoza's already went out of his way to say that he's done. Like, that's it. It's a high-grade calf strain, and that's something that they're not going to mess around with whatsoever because they don't want to send back farther than what it already would if you try to rush an injury like that, which is not a smart thing to do. But before I let you guys go, everybody, let's just take a look here at Blake Snell because, as I said, Blake Snell's baseline numbers this year aren't pretty. However, expected numbers are far superior, and they do tell you a bit more about Blake Snell and what he has been able to control this season. Again, Blake has been on the injury list at least twice, I believe, and he's one of these guys that definitely could be feasible for the Mets, but not my favorite pick. Definitely not my favorite pick for sure. I see the appeal to it. I understand the thought process, but I also see why this would make absolutely zero sense too, why it could be a ticking time bomb. And look at those numbers. Again, a lot, some up, some down, but also some eliteness for sure here from Blake Snell. 82nd percentile in breaking run value, poor in the pitching run value, fastball and off speed. Expected ERA 65th percentile, expected batting average 80th percentile, fastball velocity 77th percentile, sits 96 on the velo with the gun that we see there. Average exit velocity 73rd percentile at 89%, at 88 miles per hour. Chase percentage is low right now. He's not getting guys to swing and miss as much as he would have liked there with the chase. However, he is getting, I'm wrong. He isn't getting guys to chase right now, but he's getting a ridiculous amount of whip percentage and Ks. He's looking good. 91st percentile whip percentage right now, 71st percentile and K percentage. Walk percentage is low, and that's the biggest thing why you don't want Blake Snell, not just because of the contract, but also because he walks the entire ballpark, it feels like. Barrel percentage, 48th percentile. Hard hit percentage, 90th percentile. He's not giving up hard contact, which is very important to actually make note of here. I will be frank, Blake Snell's numbers are actually even quite a bit more impressive than I initially perceived heading into this discussion right now. Ground ball percentage, 65th percentile, extension 82nd percentile. For Blake Snell, it's two things. It's three. One, staying healthy. Two, it's fit, handling a market like New York. Does that make sense? And it's three, the walk rate. Those are three big questions I think are big enough to warrant why the Mets don't do this. But if they do, We just talked about the reason as to why it can make sense, if anything, to everybody. But again, we're going to talk at great length about all the moves the Mets do. JT, I love you too. Happy to have you in here. But we're going to get it broken down to an absolute T as we always do. Christine is very adamant about not bringing back Conforto. Not an upgrade. I tend to disagree greatly, my friend, because there's quite a low bar there with DJ Stewart and Ben Gamel. Thinking Michael Conforto is not an upgrade over those two is just being blind and not looking at just the numbers and just watching baseball. When it comes to that, again, I'm taking that upgrade every single day of the week, twice on Sundays. However, do I think Conforto is a better option over Winker? No. Do I think Conforto is a better option over some other bad options? No, not true at all. I would love Michael back, at the right price, but also because the Mets couldn't make a Jesse Winker happen or couldn't make other routes happen. Outside of that, there's nothing else to really say on that front currently. My man, Pat, happy to have you. And everyone, let's shed some love for our guy, Pat, here, who took it to the chin like the absolute beauty that he is. As his Yanks got pistol whipped by the Mets, he came in and did a roughly 2-hour-long post-game show with your boy, Wardy. Again, I really appreciate that, Pat. Love you. My condolences, Wardy, and I appreciate that. We all do here in Metsland. JT, thank you so much for the donation. Yo, my guy, let's go Mets wild card. Here we come. Love your work, bro. I appreciate that, JT. Right back at you, my man. Have a fantastic rest of your day, brother. Thank you so much for the kind words and the donation. Isaac Ocasio, how are you? Take Conforto over most because of the feeling. And that's another thing too we can't account for with Conforto until he would actually return, is the atmosphere for not only the fans but him. You can't tell me that Michael Conforto wouldn't be rejuvenized and potentially thrive in a limited platoon role if he came back to Queens and was a part of a potential playoff run with the Mets. Like, seriously, he's a playoff performer. We've seen in the past. I know it's been a minute since Conforto's been in the playoffs, but he has been there and he has had success in the past. I firmly believe that he could really be a lightning rod for the Mets in key situations if need be. Again, not saying he's going to light the lamp on fire, not saying he's going to be our saving grace, because we don't need him to be. We just want an upgrade over our current outfield option of DJ Stewart and Ben Gamel. I don't think that's a crazy thing to ask. In the case of the Mets, Michael Conforto certainly helps in that regard. With that being said, everybody, that's going to do it for the live show. Thank you all so much for watching. Your man crush is a little crazy. Goose, it's not that when you understand the context. You guys are acting like I want Michael Conforto to play every day. You're acting like I want Conforto literally back cleanup. Like what? That's not what I want. That the context is important. It's very important. The same way context behind Eric Fetty is important, yet we still have fans out here that like to defer to just his time with the Washington Nationals before he went over the KBO. These things are not the same. But everybody, that's going to do it for the live show. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Greatly appreciate it. We will be back live with coverage after the conclusion of hopefully a series victory. So until then, you guys and gals have a great rest of your night, day, evening, or whenever you watch this. Keep your chin up. Kodai Senga season might be done, but for the Mets, it's still just getting started. This is going to be your boy Wardy signing out. We'll talk to you guys again real soon. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace.